Okay, thank you very much, Radim. So, as Radim said, Jana and I, we teach English at the Faculty of Science. That's why our primary concern is ESP, or English for Specific Purposes. And given the topic of this conference, the metaphor of Crossroads, we believe that we are not too much mistaken if we say that sometimes ESP and General English are seen as two distinct approaches with clearly defined boundaries. And today we would like to cross the boundary, and we would like to bring closer together ESP and General English, and we are going to show you a technique which integrates both ESP and General English, and it is a technique which enables us to play with scientific vocabulary and the language of the everyday or general language. And our reason for this technique, which kind of consists of both of these approaches, is that sometimes ESP, as opposed to General English, is seen as a restricted approach to language teaching. And the reasons are, as you can see here, ESP is mainly characterized by the very specific setting in which the language is going to be used, very specific genres, specialized vocabulary or terminology, and the specific demands on grammar and on the role of the teacher. Even though we understand the justification for introducing ESP into language teaching, still ESP in the past has encountered several negative reactions. And one of the major concerns about ESP was its communicative value or the lack of it. Because based on the definition of ESP, students in ESP courses are prepared to work effectively in a particular situation, in the target situation. However, there are concerns that that ESP courses are not able to prepare students to communicate well or effectively outside the given context, outside their specific environment. And the reason was for this criticism was that the language of ESP courses is a little bit restricted. So in the past, ESP has been seen as an approach that does not encourage students to see their specialized language as a vehicle for communication. And ESP kind of learned from this criticism, and in the most recent years we could see an attempt in ESP to go under the surface of language, not to consider language itself, but the thinking processes or thinking mechanisms or cognitive operations which underlie language use. So the principal idea behind this approach is that underlying all language use, there are cognitive operations or common interpretive processes or thinking processes which enable us to understand what is going on. So there are some cognitive operations which help us to make sense of things, and because of this, the main focus in ESP shouldn't be on the language itself, but on thinking processes or interpretive strategies which help students to cope with meaning and meaning construction. And in effect, this means employing or designing tasks which require students to employ the same cognitive operations and thinking processes as they would do outside the target situation. So basically, the main idea is that ESP should be about acquiring or training and practicing competencies students need in as well as outside the target situation. And the main philosophy behind this approach is that we draw on the same thinking mechanisms and thinking processes no matter what we do. It doesn't matter if we are in a highly scientific context or if we are dealing with a situation of the everyday. Okay, and I think that such an understanding of ESP also is in accordance with the new CEFR. I know that you are all very familiar with this document, so just very briefly, I want to say that in the new CEFR we can see the tendency towards unifying these two approaches of General English and ESP. And Yes, and I just want to make sure that the new CEFR promotes this action-oriented approach, and because of this, it sees or understands language as a vehicle for communication, and it wants to replace the traditional model of the 4 skills, and instead it promotes 4 modes of communication, because this document kind of argues that these modes of communication better reflect the complex reality of human interaction and human communication. Consequently, with language activities promoting social interaction, the boundary between ESP and General English can be blurred, because they both draw on the same thinking processes, and that's why the link between General English and ESP can be facilitated. So in other words, the new CEFR says that ESP and General English, although they have been seen as 2 separate domains, might in fact be just one culture. And when I was speaking about the cognitive operations or mechanism which we use to make sense of things, one of the cognitive operations or thinking mechanism we want to focus on is metaphorical thinking, because we believe that it's an important aspect of science, and also because we believe that this metaphorical thinking has been underestimated in the past, especially in the realm of science. And the reason for this is that scientific language is usually seen as very clear, simple, not ambiguous, and the metaphor, on the other hand, is seen as a kind of decoration or an embellishment to language. But in the past, there have been some theories which in fact showed the opposite, that the metaphor is fundamental to scientific knowledge, to scientific language, and that it actually underlies our conceptual system, that conceptual system is metaphorical, how we understand things is metaphorical. So for example, in science, there are very powerful metaphors, like for example, a black hole is a metaphor, or artificial intelligence is a metaphor. DNA, the way we see DNA as a language, is a powerful metaphor which drives the research, and it helps to formulate scientific theories. So I know that everyone here knows what the metaphor is, but I selected this very metaphorical definition of metaphor, and it says metaphor is no to the old associations, no to the things that have constantly gone together, the things already sorted, and yes to new associations by crossing all sorts to make new ones. And I selected this metaphorical definition because it emphasizes exactly what we want to stress in the tasks with our students at the Faculty of Science, because we want our students to create, to make new things, to perceive new ideas, and we believe that metaphorical thinking can help them to be able to perceive things in science, in the realm of science as well. And this belief is supported by a quotation from a book called Science, Order and Creativity, which in which the authors say, in perceiving a new idea in science, the mind is involved in a similar form of creative perception as when it engages in a poetic metaphor. So I'm just going to finish, and I want to say that that's what we want to do. We want to bring metaphorical thinking into our tasks, which we do with our students, and Jana is going to walk you through the technique, and she's going to show you some of the tasks we did, but of course it's just one kind of task which you can do with metaphors.
Thank you, Markéta. So now let me continue. Markéta has just kind of outlined and given you quite a lot of details regarding the context in which we operate and teach, and I'd like to describe, or try to describe, the kind of project that we did. So there were quite a few birds we were trying to kill metaphorically with this stone. So we did not, it would be quite, straightforward and maybe a bit overwhelming to start dealing with metaphors with our students. And we were also pursuing other goals, such as, so of course we wanted to introduce metaphorical thinking, but through kind of scaffolded activities while holding our students' hands. So we also, one of the main objectives was to boost our students' confidence. They are students of science, they're usually brilliant people, but they feel usually certain kind of they feel too confined within their area, and small talk at a conference is something that usually kind of pops up when we ask them, like, what are your major struggles? What are the things where you don't really feel strong or confident? So we wanted to show them that what they already know is great, good enough, and that it can be applied outside their fields of study. We needed to play and create. Creativity, I don't think I need to discuss that. We wanted to come up with a project that would be engaging. We wanted them to play with language so that they can discover the beauty of it. And we wanted to foster their autonomy as well, because we knew there were tools available. And little did we know that soon we would have to convert most of our teaching online. So we kind of had a hunch, maybe. So there was something to do with kind of maybe there are online tools. We know about the tools. It would be great to let the students know that there are things they can do on their own and use in their future careers. So if you want people to play, and those people are scientists, what do you do? What do you do? I feel like you give them lots of stuff. You provide excellent material, variable material, kind of a Lego thing, and you give them tools to play. And language corpora, if you want to foster kind of language learning and excitement about language, corpora, that was the thing that came up. So it's like a sandpit where you've got billions of words, authentic texts that they can use. Also, the great thing is that these corpora are come from very reliable sources, they are quantified, and there are tools that help you analyze those texts. So Sketch Engine, not really sure, can you please just indicate to me somehow, Sketch Engine, do you know the tool? It's like for text analysis, yeah, most of you do. So this is a very sophisticated, brilliant tool. We've got access to it via our institution, so we don't need to pay. And it allows us to work with the data that we've got. So we started off kind of slowly, really, so just getting our feet wet with the tool, because we thought, like, what would be the first thing? Sorry, I'm not really getting metaphorical yet. So collocations were the obvious kind of reason, because this is what a Sketch Engine can do for you. Collocations are also very, very important and useful in learning languages, not only for kind of processing language, but also for production. They help greatly. Also, if you want to be a predictable speaker, you would use some fixed phrases and you would sound natural, let's say, and predictable, if that is what you go for. and also, good use of collocations, of standard collocations would also be a sign of your proficiency, of course. Now, so straight away, I've used this picture to show you that there are many kind of options for viewing. For example, collocations, I picked the keyword research there. And this was like giving someone, taking them to a sweet store. I don't know, like some of the students were amazed. It's like, wow. So I've always wondered, what do I say? Do I say do research or conduct research? You can see the bubbles, of course, represent, sorry, I haven't described it properly. So what you can see, this is my keyword. There you can see the verbs, which are combined with research as object, as subject, now some modifiers. And the bubble represents the statistical significance of that collocation, how strong it is, how common it is. Also, of course, you can see some less common ones. And this is not great only because you can check whether some of the collocations are right, but also because there might be things you've always been trying to say, and now you see, like, wow, there's a very natural way for me to use those. So this was something we played with a lot, just to introduce the tool. The function, by the way, I'm not going to kind of describe, we don't have time for me to describe how it works, but I can just recommend, if anyone wonders, there are brilliant video tutorials even on YouTube where you can just play a 2-minute video on how to start with Sketch Engine. It's all done there. So this is the function called word sketch. But more interestingly, if you go to Concordancing, you can pick a word and you can see how it is used in context. And now the exciting thing is going to happen. So we would pick a very specific term from science, such as gravitate. I'm not sure you can read the sentences, so let me just read a few of them. And interestingly, the word gravitate, that you would probably be familiar with from physics, if you read a few sentences, there's nothing to do with physics, or very little. So you would have workers will gravitate to the best employer, or teachers gravitate to social networks, which are tailored for educators, or even, I love like humans by nature tend to gravitate toward institutional structure, do they? Interesting. So this is why you can study a specific word in very many diverse contexts. One of the tasks that we engaged our students in was that we picked a few words. So for example, here, can you guess the field of study of these students, roughly? I just said it, right? So there was something to do with mathematics or physics, and the task was, I was hoping to do it here with you, but no, we don't have time for that. So I chose a sentence that would be nice and representative, and now the job for the student would be to kind of pick the attribute of that concept from physics and see how it was transferred to the meaning of that word in kind of general context. So oblique, for example, the relics are oblique. You know oblique from geometry, like not direct, so it would be like the legs are, I don't know, vague, ambiguous, whatever. Inertia, that's my favorite. Teachers are reluctant to use technology out of inertia, the kind of tendency to move in the same direction. So it was so much fun. It was so much fun for us as well. And then a different kind of direction of the activity would be that everyone knows what a litmus test is, or ARID from geography, Confluence from geography as well. I'm so tempted to ask, like, ARID, if you know that ARID means dry, like not providing enough hydration, then could you use it outside? Could you ever use it in your writing, in your conversations? Anybody? And just one tip, ARID, like dry. What else could be kind of not providing, the nutrition, the can you guess? You could just try.
I think writing is prose, arid prose,
exactly.
Like bad writing.
Bad, yeah.
I had rather an arid brain because I couldn't think.
Rather an arid, exactly. They just like you can have arid years as a company, so unsuccessful, not producing brilliant, thank you. So, and now the fun is the question, not the fun really, but I'm about to conclude. The fun and question is now using Sketch Engine. I'm not going to give you or show you the feedback we got because it was great, but I'm going to provide the feedback we got, which was controversial. We got, students appreciate, I don't think I need to tell you that they loved the tool, they found it great, useful, relevant, but someone wrote this one. I will now check everything I write. And I thought, oh my God, like, why did that happen? So we meet a long conversation. And I think that what we've done so far, we just started, we're just testing the territory now, but what it raises are very important questions of like, who's a legitimate speaker? Like, if I ask, I don't know, 20 million speakers, does it mean, and no one has ever used it, like, I don't know, yesterday we talked about a growing consensus. Can you say that? Like the question, can I say that? If you check it, by the way, you can. People have said that before. It's very rare. And you find out it's rare. What does it mean? What does it mean as in terms of kind of genre and register? Do I want to sound unique, or is my audience not ready? Do I want to sound standard, and etc.? So it's just one of the things that kind of arise, and it's a huge topic. But anyway, what we want to do in the future is, yes, go on in the project because it gives us a lot of kind of potential and inspiration. And a huge topic that I personally would love to do is talk about using metaphors in my teacher training, in my lessons of English for future teachers of science, and talk about limitations of various concepts if they teach and use metaphors. I hope I'm supposed to. And now, yes, and this is us. These are our avatars that we use with Markéta. We were just, testing the waters of online learning, and this is also to say thank you very much for listening, and good luck with all your online teaching. If you're too shy for us, take it have fun, take it step by step, and one day you'll be zooming. Start with that picture. Bye. Thank you. That's all. Thank you so much for coming.
Okay, thank you very much. We didn't agree on any adjectives regarding your presentation, but I mean, terrific would be okay. Thank you, and it's time for your questions, please.
Slightly arid, but
yes.
It's not really a question. It's just a comment about collocations. Do you know there's a free collocations dictionary?
yes,
Okay. Which lays it out in a more structured.
Yeah, the beauty of this is that it gives you more options to kind of view it and then see it again, click on it and see. Yeah, maybe I should have mentioned it. Yeah.
No, I thought it was very interesting presentation actually. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
I have a question. When you do the metaphor thing with your students, do you introduce the basic concepts like source domain, target domain, mapping, and so on?
No, that would be too complicated, and they are not linguists, so we just wanted to play with the concept.
So, thank you very much. It's beautiful to see somebody else is also using Sketch Engine. But my question was, did you do some kind of training for your students on Corpora and how to use them? What I mean specifically is, even a lot of linguists run into the pitfall of what does it mean when one word is more frequent in this corpus than in another corpus? If I have a word which has some kind of frequency, repetitive word, what does that mean? So I think this interpretation of statistical data that you can get. I don't know, have you done something with your students before you let them out into the colours?
This is a crucial, thank you. This is actually the question that I feel like we've been not avoiding really, but we only introduced the tool so far. And also these are younger students who usually are studying for a bachelor degree. So I feel that this is the next step. We had discussed that, but so far it was more about like what can they do, what can they play, and also this is a part of a course where you cannot really devote that much time to it. So it was just an example just to share with you kind of a few tasks or activities that we've done. But I do believe that, for example, for academic writing in courses with academics or PhD students, that would be essential to kind of really go into it. Yeah, for us it was more about really letting them see that what they know is fantastic and playing with it a bit. But I know it's more kind of, it's such a large and significant kind of area.
Yes, so we just introduced the technicalities of the system, but we didn't go to the interpretation. But
we did when you say like I need to check every single collocation now. Of course you don't need to, but the question of how statistically significant does it need to be for me to be able to use it like that is...
No, but like we mentioned it, but we didn't go to any great detail, but yes.
It does raise questions.
Yes.
So in terms of the corpus, I saw that you were using the web corpus. So that I can imagine that might play a different role, especially with ESP courses. Like considering what does it mean if I use the web corpus against, for example, Cambridge Academic. But I think that the role to make your students enthusiastic about their own language must have been fulfilled because it looks.
I feel it was to some extent, please. But I hope we didn't do more harm than good. We might have paralyzed some people forever, but I hope not. Yeah.
Just wanted to mention something related to the introduction when you mentioned the field of ESP, that we are looking at ways to shift it slightly. And you mentioned that we need to think about the target situations. But then what I remember from Hutchinson and Watts' book, and I just checked that it was published in 1987, is that ESP is a question of target communicative situations which we should find in the field, and that's what should be practiced with the students. Now, I think that we all entered the field of ESP much later than 1987. So by that time, all this idea was lost, and we were supposed to teach vocabulary. Is that right? And now we're supposed to reinvent.
What it originally
Isn't that funny?
I felt that so often
Not
during
funny.
conference, like people talking about things that are so old. That's the way it goes.
Sorry, it's probably not a question.
Interesting comment.
One last question. Anybody? Then I would like to know maybe how big part of the course was this? Was it just a cherry on the top, or was it a bigger part of the courses you teach?
So for me, it was just 1 week, one lesson, but I would like to see it as an introduction. So because I teach biologists, I would like to explore with them, for example, the metaphor of DNA as language, because it is something fascinating for me as a language teacher and for them as students of the English language. So I saw this as an introduction, but I can imagine having more lessons devoted to metaphorical thinking, which would be connected to science.
Yeah. So it's just, we are trying to incorporate it into kind of,
Yes.
And I forgot to mention that a part of it is kind of encouraging the students to notice things already that are around them. So it would be kind of, we actually had to simplify this a little bit, but it would be something that you would not teach, but that you would be engaged in over, a course. So it can kind of pop up. But it also, we kind of made it happen in the previous semester, which took place online. We didn't plan that, of course, but then so we had to change the kind of design, but it has worked out in the end. So might use it differently next time, so it's all work in progress. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, last chance for the last question. No? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.